I remember the moment I received the invitation to my brother's wedding like it was a scene playing out in slow motion. The envelope was crisp, elegant, something you'd expect for a celebration of love and family. But there was something cold about it. No personal note. No, "we hope to see you," just a plain card with a date and place. I stared at it for a long time, heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread. After everything, the years of being sidelined, the silent exclusions, I wondered if this was a genuine invitation or just a formality, a cruel reminder that I was still on the outside looking in. When I arrived at the venue, dressed carefully in a navy blue dress that screamed confidence, I held my breath. The grand estate was breathtaking, the manicured lawns, the sparkling chandeliers visible through the tall windows, but none of it could mask the knot tightening in my stomach. At the entrance, the woman at the reception glanced at the guest list, brows furrowing. "I'm sorry, Ms. Hartley. We don't have your name on the seating chart for the main event." My voice caught. "I'm on the guest list. Reed's sister." She nodded politely but didn't look convinced. Instead, she gestured toward a side door. "They've set up a table for you in the kitchen, near the staff." My heart sank. The kitchen. The place where pots clanged, and smells of food filled the air. Not the elegant banquet halls where everyone else was gathering, laughing, celebrating. I forced a smile and followed the attendant through the back corridors, my heels clicking on the cold tile floor. The sounds of laughter and music dimmed behind the thick doors. Stepping into the kitchen was like stepping into a different world. The air was hot and humid. Waitstaff hurried past with trays of food, and chefs shouted orders in a language I barely registered. At a small table pushed against a wall, I saw a couple of catering staff glance up at me with curious eyes. The seat was nothing like I imagined for the sister of the groom. The room smelled of grease and oven heat, a stark contrast to the fragrance of roses and champagne outside. I sat down, the fabric of my dress feeling absurdly out of place amid the worn aprons and scratched countertops. The ache wasn't just physical, it cut deeper. I had poured years of my life, my soul, into building my company from the ground up, fighting to be seen, respected, heard. Yet here I was, invisible in the eyes of my own family on the day they celebrated the man who had pushed me aside. A wave of emotions crashed over me, humiliation, anger, disbelief. My throat tightened. The noise of the kitchen became a dull roar as memories of countless dinners missed, overlooked birthdays, and silenced achievements flickered through my mind. But beneath the hurt, a slow-burning fire ignited. This was not defeat. This was a line drawn in the sand. As I sat there, engulfed by the harsh fluorescent lights and the clatter of pans, I promised myself one thing. I would not let this be the story they tell. I would show them, in a way they couldn't ignore, how visible and powerful I truly was. And so the stage was set. The kitchen was my starting point, but it would not be my cage. I'm Camille Hartley, and this is my story about standing up when they tried to silence me, where I learned that respect isn't given, it's earned. And sometimes you have to fight to take back what's rightfully yours. Camille Hartley stared at the plain, unassuming envelope that had arrived in her mailbox that morning. There was no handwriting on it, no personal note, no affectionate greeting, no hint of the brother she had once known. Just a cold, impersonal invitation embossed with the name Reed Hartley. No, dear Camille, no, we hope to see you, not even a signature. It was as if the card had been sent by a stranger rather than the brother who had grown up beside her. She slid the invitation out slowly, the edges crisp beneath her fingers, and stared at it a moment longer, feeling the weight of the years that had passed since she last felt truly welcome in that family. 2 years ago, A silent fracture had split the Hartley household during a corporate board meeting where Camille had finally been cast aside. Not with harsh words or shouting, but with a calculated, civilized coldness. Reed had been granted full control over the family's traditional furniture business, while Camille's innovative contributions in smart home technology had been dismissed like a passing fad. Her mind drifted back to that meeting. The polite nods, the quick smiles that barely hid their dismissal, the way her ideas were quietly sidelined in favor of Reed's inherited legacy. It was a story she had heard too many times from women before her, overshadowed by tradition, overlooked in favor of the status quo. And yet, Camille had refused to disappear into the background. She had built her own company, integrated cutting-edge AI technology into homes, and forged partnerships that many would envy. But none of that seemed to matter to the Hartleys. Why, then, had she accepted the invitation? Because this wasn't about forgiveness. It wasn't about reconciliation. It was about strategy. Camille was currently negotiating a critical deal with Solovana Retreats, a prestigious luxury wedding and event venue chain. Their latest acquisition? Hartley Farm, the very estate where Reed's wedding was to be held. Attending that wedding wasn't a sentimental choice. It was an opportunity to protect her interests and assert her presence in a family and industry that tried so hard to erase her. When Camille arrived in Colorado Springs, the mountain air was crisp, but the reception she received from her mother, Francine, was anything but warm. The brief, perfunctory greeting was a stark reminder that this family had not just sidelined her professionally, but had distanced themselves emotionally. Francine barely glanced at her before turning to make arrangements, not for Camille, but for Delilah, Reed's fiancée. Camille was shown to a cramped, dusty attic room above the stables. The paint was peeling, the furniture mismatched and worn. This was not the guest room she had imagined, nor the welcome she deserved. The space smelled faintly of old wood and forgotten memories, a stark contrast to the polished elegance of the estate below. She unpacked quietly, setting her laptop on the small, rickety desk. The glow from the screen illuminated her face as she typed an email to Solovana's technical team, a succinct request to suspend the experimental lighting and environmental controls she had installed at Hartley Farm. The email contained no explanations, no accusations, just a firm directive. Seconds later, her phone buzzed with an automatic reply confirming the request had been received and was under immediate review. Camille leaned back in the creaky wooden chair, her eyes adjusting to the dimness of the attic. The silence was heavy, but not empty. It thrummed with the quiet determination building inside her. This was just the beginning. Though unseen, though unheard, Camille had set into motion the first step of her silent revolution. Her revenge would not be loud or public. It would be precise, unyielding, and impossible to ignore. And as the night deepened outside the old farmhouse, Camille Hartley sat alone in that dusty attic room, calm and resolute, her quiet vengeance beginning to stir. Camille arrived at the venue for the rehearsal dinner, anticipation mingling with an uneasy knot in her stomach. She held the event program in her hand, scanning the seating chart for her name. But it wasn't there. Not on any of the tables designated for family, friends, or even close business associates. Confused, she approached a nearby coordinator who offered a polite but dismissive smile and said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Hartley, but it looks like you've been assigned to the next room over. It's where the catering staff usually dine." The words hit Camille harder than she expected. The next room over was a cramped, utilitarian space, a far cry from the grand dining hall where the wedding guests gathered. As she was led away, she caught the flicker of recognition in the eyes of some attendees, fleeting but loaded with unspoken messages. As Camille settled at a small table surrounded by uniformed servers, she felt a presence beside her. Delilah, Reed's fiancée, appeared with an almost saccharine smile. "Camille," she cooed, voice dripping with feigned warmth, "I know this must be awkward for you, But you understand, right? You're really here as a guest of the tech team. Reed's solution has Solovana over the moon. It's really all about the future of the venue. Her gaze lingered meaningfully, as if to remind Camille that her role was secondary, at best. Camille nodded politely, her silence a deliberate shield. But her eyes sharpened as she caught the calculated glint behind Delilah's smile, the slight raise of her eyebrows, the subtle tightening of her jaw. Across the room, she noticed her father's cool glance that quickly diverted, and her mother's polite but distant demeanor. They weren't just excluding her, they were erasing her existence from the family's narrative and from the project she had poured her soul into. Later that evening, Vincent slipped into the room quietly, his face shadowed with concern. Pulling Camille aside, he whispered, "There's something you need to see." On his tablet, he showed her data streams and project blueprints, digital fingerprints of the smart home system she had created, now being replicated without her involvement or consent. The code controlling lighting, climate, and ambiance, the heart of her technology, was being cloned. Reed had been secretly collaborating with a startup in San Jose to develop a parallel system, undercutting Camille's company and marginalizing her contributions. Camille's mind raced as she absorbed the news. Without confrontation, without accusation, she composed a terse email to her legal team. A demand to verify the authenticity of the licensing agreements for the Hartley Farm installation. Simultaneously, she secured and logged all intellectual property documents pertaining to the project, her safeguard against any forged contracts or corporate chicanery. As the night deepened, an unexpected message buzzed on her phone, a discreet note from someone within Solovana. "We thought you were overseeing this. Turns out your name's not on any of the new blueprints." The sting of that revelation was sharp. Though she was the official point of contact and the visionary behind the system, she had been systematically cut out of the implementation process, stripped of her authority and presence, while still bearing full responsibility. Camille sat back, letting the quiet weight of it settle. The game was no longer just about family slight or business rivalry. It was a carefully orchestrated effort to sideline her entirely. But Camille was no stranger to invisibility. She had survived worse by remaining silent and gathering strength beneath the surface. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard again. The next moves would be silent, precise, and unrelenting. The quiet revenge had only just begun. The day of the project orientation meeting arrived, but Camille was conspicuously absent from the invitation list. Word had circulated quickly. Reed had arranged a private gathering with key players, representatives from Solovana Retreats, interior architects, and local journalists eager to cover the event. The venue was buzzing with anticipation for the unveiling of the latest developments at Hartley Farm, yet Camille, the mind behind much of the technology, was excluded. As she stood quietly on the sidelines, she caught Delilah's smile, calculated, almost smug. "It's just a meeting with investors and partners," Delilah whispered to a nearby guest. "Nothing for the tech crowd to worry about." The words stung, a reminder that Camille's role had been diminished to a mere footnote in the family's grand narrative. Determined to witness what was being said about her work, Camille slipped through the gathering, keeping her distance yet observing intently. The presentations rolled out smoothly. Elegant slides detailed a harmonious integration of smart lighting, climate control, and ambiance enhancement, all ostensibly innovations by Hartley's in-house team. But Camille recognized her designs, the very system she had labored over for years, being repackaged. The most biting blow came when she saw her name conspicuously missing from the slides, replaced instead by the vague term in-house AI integration. It was as if her identity and contributions were erased with a few clicks. Later that afternoon, Camille found herself summoned by her father, Howard. His tone was calm, almost paternal, as he pulled her aside. "This is a strategic move, Camille," he said gently. You need to learn when to let go." He spoke as though the business decisions were predetermined, with men like Reed as rightful stewards. "Everything is arranged. Your stepping back will keep the family legacy intact." The weight of his words settled heavily on her. The battle wasn't only external, but deeply entrenched within family expectations and tradition. But the most surreal moment came during the wedding itself. Camille observed, almost in disbelief, that the very technology she had developed was being showcased as an experiential marvel for guests. Ambient lighting shifted colors gracefully. Music softened and swelled in tune with the mood. Climate controls adjusted seamlessly to comfort the crowd. Yet, not once did the announcer mention her company or her name. It was all attributed implicitly to the Hartley estate, Reed's vision. Camille's innovation had become invisible again. Her partner Vincent faced his own confrontation. A member of Delilah's entourage approached him discreetly, a warning thinly veiled as advice. "If you want to maintain your design project with Solavana, you should stay out of Camille's business dealings." The message was clear. Camille was being attacked from both sides, family and corporate allies alike. That night, alone in a quiet room, Camille reopened a speech she had once prepared for a meeting she was barred from attending. She revised the title, making it sharper, more resolute. "When silence is no longer submission." Though sidelined, silenced, and stripped of credit, Camille's spirit remained unbroken. The true fight was only beginning. The wedding day dawned with an air of elegance, but for Camille and Vincent, the reality was anything but. As they approached the check-in desk, Camille's heart raced with cautious hope, but the receptionist's expression was unreadable. When Camille politely asked about her seating assignment, the receptionist's eyes flickered over her name in the list, then slowly shook her head. "I'm sorry, Ms. Hartley, but we don't have a seat reserved under your name." Vincent's jaw tightened as Camille glanced around, searching for any sign of recognition or an alternative. Instead, she was gently directed to follow a staff member through a narrow side corridor, leading away from the grand reception hall. They entered a bustling kitchen adjoining the estate, where chefs and servers moved briskly between stoves and counters. Camille's assigned table was a small makeshift arrangement tucked into a corner, covered with a hastily draped white cloth. The room was a stark contrast to the opulence outside. No chandeliers, no crystal flutes, just the clatter of pans and muted conversations of the catering staff. Camille looked around, meeting eyes that quickly diverted, the kind of looks that say, "You don't belong here." Even some family members passed by without a nod or a word. Then Delilah appeared, as poised and radiant as ever, a glass of champagne in hand. Her smile was sweet, but there was a razor-sharp edge beneath it. She approached Camille with deliberate ease and said, "This is your spot. VIP guests with serious business to discuss need the best seats, you know." Her voice was sugary, but the message was clear. Camille was relegated to the margins. Camille said nothing. She stood, her posture calm and composed, and quietly excused herself from the kitchen. Vincent, bristling with anger, started to protest, but Camille placed a steady hand on his arm. "Not now," she whispered firmly. "Let me handle this." Alone in the privacy of the bridal suite's dressing room, Camille opened her laptop, the glow of the screen casting a determined light across her face. Her fingers moved swiftly as she reviewed the terms of the contract governing her company's technology deployment at Hartley Farm. Every clause, every line of code was a testament to her innovation and dedication. Then she picked up her phone and dialed the CEO of Solavana Retreats. Her voice was steady but urgent as she detailed the situation. The systematic exclusion, the unauthorized alterations, and the disrespect shown not only to her, but to the integrity of the project. She requested an immediate suspension of all technology installations related to her software at the estate until a full inquiry could be conducted. The response was swift and surprising. The CEO expressed shock at the revelations and assured Camille that the deployment would be frozen until the matter was resolved. They had no idea about the internal family dynamics corrupting the project. Camille's eyes narrowed with quiet resolve. Without fanfare or confrontation, she sent a formal email to Solivana's legal team, revoking the license for her smart home system at Hartley Farm. The message was clear. She was no longer a sidelined player, but the one pulling the strings. The room was silent save for the faint hum of the laptop. Camille sat back, her mind racing yet her heart steady. This was no longer a family slight to endure. It was a battle she was ready to lead. Her quiet power was awakening, and no empty chair or whispered dismissal could contain it. That night, as the wedding unfolded with the customary pomp and celebration, an undercurrent of chaos silently rippled through the Hartley estate. Delilah's phone buzzed incessantly, her usual composure beginning to crack as a message flashed on the screen. An urgent notification that the smart home AI system controlling the estate had been disabled. The elegant atmosphere suddenly felt fraught with tension. Reed was the first to react. His voice trembled as he called their parents, relaying the unsettling news. Howard's face grew pale, his usual stern demeanor replaced by stunned silence. Francine, overwhelmed, struggled to hold back tears, the facade of family unity slipping at the edges. Meanwhile, Camille's phone buzzed relentlessly in her pocket, illuminating with repeated calls from her mother and father. They pleaded for answers, desperate for a reversal or explanation. But Camille let the calls go unanswered, choosing silence over confrontation. Her fingers tightened around the device, refusing to engage in their frantic attempts. Amid the storm of unanswered calls, a simple message arrived from Vincent. "It's too late. She's not a server anymore." Those words carried weight far beyond their brevity. They marked Camille's transformation, from an invisible outsider to a woman wielding quiet, undeniable power. Later, alone in the modest guest room atop the sprawling estate, Camille sat reflecting on the patterns of exclusion and dismissal she had endured throughout her life. Memories of birthdays forgotten in favor of Reed's achievements, graduations overshadowed by fraternity celebrations, and countless family gatherings where her presence was tolerated but never truly acknowledged, all resurfaced. But now, those memories fueled a new resolve. The concept of quiet revenge crystallized in her mind. Not loud, not violent, but deliberate and effective. A subtle vibration on her phone broke her reverie. A discreet message from a trusted insider at Solivana. "We thought you were overseeing this. Turns out your name's not on any of the new blueprints." The note carried an unspoken solidarity, a silent acknowledgement that Camille was not alone. Allies existed within the labyrinth of corporate and familial politics, and their support kindled a spark of hope for the battles yet to come. In this moment, Camille understood the stakes. She had been cast into the kitchen, hidden away from the spotlight, yet she held the power to rewrite the story. The chessboard was set, the players in motion, and the game was far from over. 3 days had passed since the chaotic wedding, and Camille's phone rang with a seriousness she couldn't ignore. It was her father, Howard Hartley, calling her home. The tone in his voice was grave, stripped of warmth, signaling that this was no ordinary family chat. Camille sensed immediately that what awaited her was more than just a conversation, it was an intervention. Arriving at the Hartley estate, Camille found the living room occupied by an unusual gathering. Her parents, Howard and Francine, sat rigidly on the plush sofas. Reed, her younger brother, stood nearby with an unnerving calm, his fiancée Delilah close at his side. Flanking them were 2 stern-faced lawyers, their presence underscoring the gravity of the meeting. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension as her father broke the silence. "Camille," he began carefully, "we've come here to discuss the contract cancellation with Solivana. This isn't just about business. It's about the family's honor and our shared legacy." Francine's eyes glistened with tears as she added, "You must reconsider for the sake of what's best for all of us." Reed stepped forward, his smile honeyed but edged with a calculated sharpness. "Sis," he said softly, "we understand your passion, but there are bigger forces at play. If this keeps up, rumors might spread that you're exploiting your family ties to pressure Salavana. That could irreparably damage your reputation, and ours." His words were a subtle threat cloaked in concern, a warning that the consequences would ripple beyond boardrooms. Camille met his gaze steadily, feeling the web of power tightening around her. Reed wasn't just protecting his interests, he was weaponizing the family name, turning their bonds into leverage for control. The danger was real, but she refused to show it. Silently, she reached into her bag and pressed record on her phone, capturing every word, every nuance of manipulation and veiled threats in the room. This meeting, meant to intimidate, would instead become her shield. Later, from a discreet location, Camille sent the recorded audio to Salavana's CEO. Along with it, she included a message that outlined the undue pressures and unethical tactics being used against her. "Transparency is the only way forward," she wrote, "and this recording is for your eyes only." But Camille's fight was far from over. She retreated from the confrontation with a measured calm, turning instead to strategic moves. Vincent and a close circle of trusted investors quietly mobilized, acquiring the key timber and interior supply chains that the Hartley Company depended upon. This silent strike hit Reed where it hurt most, his supply lines and credibility. Word of these maneuvers reached the family in waves. Reed's once secure position began to waver as partners grew wary, and Delilah found herself isolated, her carefully crafted image tarnished by the unfolding family scandal. Camille watched from the sidelines, maintaining her distance and control, allowing the ripple effects to unfold without fanfare. Amidst this upheaval, an unexpected message arrived from Salavana's CEO, expressing sincere apologies for the turmoil Camille endured and extending an olive branch for deeper collaboration moving forward. This was more than just business. It was an acknowledgement of Camille's integrity and leadership. Reed, facing mounting pressure, was summoned to an emergency board meeting where his authority was quietly but decisively eroded. Camille's influence grew, supported by Vincent's steadfast presence and the investment group's backing, preparing for the next phase of negotiations and expansion. In this turning tide, Camille found herself no longer a sidelined player, but the architect of her destiny, calm, calculated, and resolute. Camille stood in the sunlight filtering through the towering pines that bordered Hartley Farm, the estate where she had once been relegated to the shadows of her own family's celebration. The familiar scent of pine and fresh earth mingled with the distant hum of construction, a sound now associated not with exclusion, but with renewal. Just weeks ago, through a discreet competitive auction, she had secured the deed to the very property that had been a symbol of her erasure. The victory was more than legal ownership. It was a reclamation of her place in the narrative, a statement that she would no longer be sidelined. She gathered with a small team of trusted advisors to unveil her vision, Lucent Acres. This wasn't just another event venue, it was a transformative experience, a chain of cutting-edge wedding destinations that blended smart home technology with immersive emotional therapies. Soft lighting that shifted with mood, soundscapes tailored to calm or exhilarate, and spaces designed to heal and connect. The project was set to redefine the landscape of luxury events, drawing attention not only from industry insiders, but also from national media eager to spotlight this pioneering integration of technology and human experience. The reverberations of Camille's rise were felt far beyond Lucent Acres. Within the Hartley Company, the fallout was swift and decisive. The board of directors, rattled by the public relations fallout from Reed's mismanagement of supply chains and the family's scandalous division, forced him to step down from his executive role. Delilah, once the poised and influential fiancée, found her carefully maintained image unraveling amidst the controversies. She retreated from the corporate spotlight, reinventing herself as an independent influencer, far removed from the power corridors she once navigated. With momentum on her side, Camille organized a press conference that would mark her true return, not as a concession to family ties, but as a testament to her own merit. Standing confidently before a crowd of journalists and industry leaders, she delivered a powerful speech titled, "When Silence Becomes Power." She spoke not just of technology or business, but of resilience, the strength found in measured resistance, and the courage to claim one's rightful place when the world tries to render you invisible. As cameras flashed and microphones captured every word, Camille's phone buzzed softly in her pocket. A message from her mother, Francine, appeared. "We never truly saw you. Is it too late?" Camille's eyes lingered on the screen, her expression unreadable. Without rushing to reply, she glanced toward the estate grounds visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows, lucent acres, aglow with soft, welcoming light under the twilight sky. Outside, a simple yet profound plaque hung above the main entrance. This was once a kitchen. The words resonated deeply, a symbolic transformation from exclusion to empowerment, from silence to recognition. The space was no longer a place of service, but a banquet hall of possibilities. In that moment, Camille understood the journey was far from over. The echoes of the past remained, but so did the promise of the future, one she would shape on her own terms, with grace, strength, and undeniable presence. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as shareholders and potential partners gathered for what would become a pivotal moment in the history of the Hartley Company. Camille stood at the podium, poised and composed, ready to reveal the hidden truths that had long been kept in the shadows. The tension in the room was palpable as she began her presentation, detailing how Reed and Delilah had manipulated family ties, corporate influence, and media to push her out of the very project she had pioneered. With a steady voice, Camille unveiled audio recordings from the private family meeting, a damning exposé of coercion and intimidation. The room fell into stunned silence as the voices of her parents and brother played, revealing veiled threats and attempts to undermine her credibility. Next, she displayed documents and contract revisions showing deliberate alterations and forgeries, proving that the core technology she developed was being copied and misrepresented as in-house innovations. Shareholders exchanged shocked glances, their earlier confidence shaken. Questions and murmurs rippled through the audience as the gravity of the betrayal sank in. Several major investors voiced their disappointment in Reed's leadership, questioning how such mismanagement could have persisted unnoticed for so long. The atmosphere shifted swiftly from suspicion to resolve. A decisive proposal emerged from the floor to officially appoint Camille as the new CEO of Hartley Enterprises. The move was met with unanimous approval, accompanied by fresh commitments to fund Lucent Acres and accelerate the rollout of Camille's cutting-edge technologies. The room erupted in applause, signaling a collective belief in Camille's vision and integrity. After the meeting, Camille found herself face-to-face with Reed in a quiet corner. The air was thick with tension as Reed, for the first time, admitted his mistakes. His voice was tinged with remorse as he sought forgiveness and proposed a truce. Camille listened, guarded but firm. She acknowledged the apology but insisted on clear boundaries. Reed would step down from his executive role and accept full responsibility for his misdeeds through legal channels. Trust had to be rebuilt, if at all. Vincent stood by Camille's side throughout this transition, leveraging his international connections to expand Lucent Acres into a global brand. Together, they initiated Visible, a mentorship and leadership program designed to empower women in technology and entrepreneurship, ensuring the next generation would face fewer barriers and more opportunities. In a heartfelt message to the public and her supporters, Camille spoke of the power found in steadfast silence and unwavering resolve. She emphasized that one's value is self-determined, not dictated by others' perceptions or biases. Her words carried a rallying cry for anyone sidelined or underestimated to rise, assert themselves, and claim their rightful place. Just as the event was drawing to a close, Camille's phone buzzed with an encrypted email from an unidentified but influential figure within the industry. The message extended a discreet invitation to collaborate and broaden her sphere of influence beyond what she had imagined possible. The door to new possibilities and unforeseen challenges was now wide open, hinting at a continuation of Camille's journey on an even grander stage. With that, the chapter closed. Not with finality, but with promise. The grand opening of Lucien Acres was a breathtaking spectacle, a dazzling testament to Camille's vision and resilience. The estate was bathed in soft, shifting lights that mimicked the very essence of the technology she had developed, ambient hues that changed with the music, caressing the faces of the gathered guests in a gentle embrace of warmth and innovation. Tables stretched beneath sprawling canopies, each adorned with elegant floral arrangements and nameplates bearing titles far more meaningful than names. Each table honored the women who, like Camille, had been overlooked, sidelined, or underestimated in their lives and careers. It was a silent but powerful acknowledgement, a living memorial to those voices once unheard. Standing before a crowd of influential figures, investors, media, friends, and mentors, Camille's voice resonated with a quiet strength. She shared her journey with candor, describing how silence had been misinterpreted as submission, how invisibility had felt like erasure, but ultimately how those moments of quiet endurance had forged her strength. "Silence is not weakness," she declared. "It is a power, a space where resolve is built, where the foundation for change is laid." She spoke of the universal right everyone holds to a seat, not just at a banquet table but in life, in business, in their families, and how she was claiming hers not by asking for permission, but by creating her own space. As the applause faded, Camille's phone chimed softly. A message appeared from Francine, her mother. "We never truly saw you. Is it too late?" Camille's gaze softened as she read the words, the conflict between past wounds and potential healing flickering behind her eyes. She chose not to reply immediately. There was no rush, no false promises. Forgiveness, she knew, would come on equal footing when recognition was genuine and not forced. Later, in the quiet comfort of the estate's study, Camille and Vincent sat discussing the future. Their conversation flowed from the expansion of Lucent Acres to the upcoming launches of technology projects designed to empower others. They spoke passionately about the Visible program, a mentorship initiative aimed at uplifting women in technology and entrepreneurship, ensuring that no one would have to face the kind of erasure Camille endured. Together, they envisioned a ripple effect of empowerment spreading far beyond their immediate circle. Turning her attention to her audience, Camille left them with a poignant message. Your value isn't defined by others, but by your own strength to rise, to set boundaries, and to build your own table. Stand firm when you're pushed aside, speak when you're silenced, and own the power that is uniquely yours. Her words lingered in the air, a call to courage and self-affirmation that resonated deeply with everyone listening. Just as the evening wound down, Camille's phone buzzed with a new notification, an encrypted email from an unexpected, influential figure. The message was an invitation to collaborate on expanding her reach, to enter a network of power and opportunity that promised to challenge even her own expectations. The door to new possibilities had opened, hinting at a future as complex and promising as the path she had already walked. Later, in the solitude of her private office, Camille allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The weight of past battles lifted, replaced by a calm resolve. Her journey had been turbulent, marked by loss and betrayal, but also by triumph and self-discovery. The ringing of her phone broke the silence once more. This time, a call from a major potential partner, offering to help scale her technology ecosystem beyond weddings and events into broader industries and global markets. The proposal was as much an invitation as it was a challenge, a chance to join a new, powerful network shaping the future. Camille paused, contemplating the stakes, the sacrifices, and the principles she would need to uphold. This was not the end of her fight. It was the beginning of a new chapter. With a steady breath, she whispered to herself, "Life isn't a fixed banquet laid out by others. It's the journey of designing your own table, and I'm ready for that feast." The screen faded to black, leaving listeners with a sense of anticipation, the promise of a story continuing beyond the known, an invitation to imagine what battles and victories lay ahead. Sometimes, the hardest battles we face aren't fought in boardrooms or on grand stages. They're the quiet struggles to reclaim our worth, to stand tall when those closest to us try to diminish our light. True strength often comes from choosing dignity over anger, silence over noise, and action over despair. Remember, your value isn't defined by where others place you, but by how fiercely you protect your own place at the table of life. Never be afraid to walk away from what doesn't honor you, because sometimes leaving is the first step toward truly arriving. Thank you for listening and sharing this journey with me. If this story resonated, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your voice matters. Let's keep the conversation going.